morning, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, and welcome to the final day of the Arab-European...
Your Excellency.
My name is Maria Vasilacou. I have served as Vienna's Vice Mayor for almost 10 years between 2010 and 2019. And today it is my honor and my pleasure to be moderating the panel on economic development and investment. Now, this panel will serve into exchanging know-how and best practices and into looking into the participating cities' strategies into economic development and attracting investment. We will be looking into the challenges that cities are facing, but also into opportunities. We will be looking possibly into aspects such as institutional capacity, regulatory issues, but also ways to attract the private sector and involve them, ways to facilitate public-private partnerships, but also ways to engage urban development strategies, such as, example given, traffic and transport, infrastructures, placemaking, to enhance economic development. And indeed, topics of economic development can be very, very different. They can start into how do we attract investment and engage the private sector, move on though to how do we use opportunities such as big conferences or Olympic Games, for that matter, to enhance economic development to the better of our cities and the residents, and all the way to tourism, example given. Last but not least, we would like to look into inclusive economic growth, leaving no one behind, involving especially vulnerable groups, such as, example given, migrants, looking into equity issues, and possibly think about ways to enhance and leverage partnerships, international partnerships, to learn from each other and move forward together faster. Now, without further ado, let me please invite our speakers of today to join me here and take their seats at the panel in the following order. So let me first invite His Excellency, the Mayor of Muscat, Mr. Ahmed Al-Humaidi. Please join me here on stage. The next to come and join us here on stage would be His Excellency, the Mayor, the Governor of Port Said, Major General Moheb Habashi Khalid. Next one would be the Mayor of Nicosia, Mr. Harala Bospoutzos. And last but not least, the Deputy Mayor of Paris, Mrs. Anouk Torremian. So let me start with the Mayor of Muscat. Excellency, could you please take a couple of minutes to introduce your city and yourself?
Okay. I will start with the city. I think that's more important. Well, thank you for this introduction, Maria, and it's a pleasure to be here talking to all of you. Muscat is the capital of Sultanate of Oman, and it has a total space of around 3,500 kilometers. It's the second smallest governorate of the 11 governorates, but it has 1/3 of the population of Oman, years old. And it was mentioned in the, I would say, the Roman and Greek history. You can check that. And it's one of the cleanest city, not in the Arab world, in the world, and the fourth city in terms of road quality and quality of life.
Thank you very much.
It has 1.5 million people living in it.
Thank you very much. I'm already packing my suitcases, I think.
Most welcome.
So next, I would like to ask Mr. General, the Mayor of Port El Said, to introduce yourself and your city. Please.
First of all, I'm I'm General. I would like to extend my appreciation to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and I'd like to extend my appreciation to the government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and extending my appreciation to the Mayor of Riyadh region, and wishing to cooperate fruitfully. I'd like to send appreciation to you as well for hosting me in this important session as well. As for Port Said, it's a coastal city. I mean, it was established in 1858, and it was established in an area extending to 145 kilometers as well. It is the northern gate of Suez Canal. It has a great incentives for investments, and it has very highly developed paved roads in addition to the basic utilities and the basic infrastructure that will fulfill the needs of investors. It has 3 universities, one of which is a public, and the 2 others are private, with all colleges. It has railroads connecting it with all the seaports, providing numerous investment opportunities. As for the industrial area and field as well, I mean, it has it contains 95 projects as well, with the manpower estimated by 45,000, specialized in the manufacturing the ready-made clothes, in addition to working as one of the most important exporting cities as well. It has the industrial zone with an area of 194 acres, in addition to providing working opportunities for 35,000, specialized in food industries. In addition to ready-made clothes, it has numerous places of interest, with two seaports, providing logistics services, in addition to numerous facilities for the international navigations. And in Port Said, as for the cultivated area, estimated by 135,000 acres. And in the health sector, Port Said has been successfully doing a great job in providing the comprehensive medical insurance to all the residents of the governorate, with a high level of governance and digital transformation, being the first city to apply this transformation. And this has led to be the first governorate obtaining the quality in providing service to investors. As for tourism in Port Said Governorate, with its excellent and distinguished position, it is a point of attraction in so many types of tourism.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Now, moving on to the city of Nicosia and Mayor Boutros. Would you please take 2 minutes to give us a brief insight into Nicosia and yourself?
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the invitation and the amazing hospitality to this very important event. Nicosia has been the capital of Cyprus since the 9th century, so it's a very historic city. It existed prior to that. It started within Venetian walls that were built in the 13th century, and its entire character is a blend of cultures because of the many conquerors that have been present in Cyprus, the Ottomans, the British, the Assyrians, the Venetians. All of them have left their mark in our cultural heritage and history. It is the eastern boundary, we may say so, of the European Union, thus making it the city of the European Union with the greatest proximity to the Arab world in terms of geography. It's sitting between 3 continents, Asia, Africa, and Europe. Nicosia is a city that has 5 large universities. 3 of them are private and 2 of them are public. And we've got about 40,000 students living in the city. That makes it quite a vibrant city. And it's a city which is very open to economy, very open to investment. However, we have to note that it's the last divided capital of Europe, since 1964. And after that, in 1974, when the invasion of Turkey took place in Cyprus, it has the unfortunate characteristic of being the only city which is divided in the middle. However, we have managed to overcome this difficulty and to build a prosperous future for the city.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Now, Mrs. Anouk Touranien, it's your turn to give us a brief introduction to yourself and, well, Paris.
Hello everyone, I'm very delighted to be here on behalf of the Mayor of Paris, Anne Hidalgo. So my name is Anouk Touranien, I'm Deputy Mayor in charge of citizen participation, democratic life and public debate. We are about 30 deputy mayors next to the Mayor of Paris, so it's my big pride to be in charge of defense of the democracy and to give more power to act to the citizens of Paris and to the Parisians themselves. What about the city of Paris? The city of Paris is the capital of France. It's of course European capital as well. We have 2.2 million inhabitants in Paris. Paris is both a city and a department, so it's very specific in France. We are also integrated in the metropolis of the Greater Paris, but also in the frame of the Paris region. And each of these local authorities has own competence, so it's a bit divided between the competence and of the city, of the region, of the metropolis. We have, of course, a long tradition of civic engagement. We are of course facing all the big challenges of the century, and the first of all of them is of course the climate change, and this is why the mayor is so engaged into that subject, because we need to change the city and to transform the city in order to face the challenge at stake. We also have a strong tradition of diplomacy of the cities, and this is why I'm delighted to be here in this forum and in this dialogue, because this is very important for Paris to be open to the world and to be able to speak to every cities, every region, and the Mayor of Paris is very committed to that engagement.
Thank you very much. Now, returning to Mayor El Humaidi, and Your Excellency, I know that Muscat has been leading into involving the private sector into economic development. And thinking of example given public-private partnerships, I know that European cities right now are quite interested into how to leverage this, how to move forward more faster, in a faster pace, more decisively. This said, I am very much looking forward to your statement.
Well, this is a very interesting question, Maria. I think the involvement of the private sector into the urban development of cities became a very important topic. And I think cities now are moving towards how to make this more marketable to companies. I will just tell you some stories from Muscat in this regard. We had, redesign our approach to private sector. We get them more involved into the urban development. For example, we just delivered 3 months ago the longest walkway in Muscat, and it was fully funded by Oxy, the international company, and it was part of their commitments to the society. But they delivered it in a very unique flagpole in Muscat, the second in the GCC, and it was fully funded by a steel company. It's a $10 million project and fully funded by the private sector. We try to make it marketable. Some of those are executed as a CSR commitment, and some of them we commercialize it and make it bankable for private sector to be part of it. For example, last year and this year we are having, for the first time in Muscat municipality history, we are having more than 20 community parks under construction. I will say 75% of them are done by the private sector. We allow them to invest and utilize not more than 20% of the land area to do a commercial business, and it always ends up with a double-digit IRR and return on investment. So it is a win-win for us. We increased the green coverage, for example, in Muscat in the last 2 years by 30% every year. And the private sector are getting a return back if there's an investment. And for those big multinational companies and big players in the market, they use it as a way to do a CSR project. So there are opportunities. It depends how the city marketed to the private sector. And we go to their offices. We go more than one time. We let them think about it, and we try even to go into their dreams and get them to dream about what will happen to them if they do this project. So the opportunity is there. It depends how do you market it and how do you approach the private sector.
Thank you very much. Now to Mr. Major Habashi Khalib, please.
بالنسبة لجهود محافظة بورسعيد في التنمية الاقتصادية والمجالات اللي تم فتحها في هذه الاتجاهات إن محافظة بورسعيد بتحرص على التنمية الاقتصادية في أداء أساسية
rate is focusing on economic growth as for the emphasis of the sustainable development within the strategy of Egypt 2030, through which there has been a master plan, the strategic master plan of Port-Said for different purposes and to provide different services in different sectors, as well as for there has been a high level of development for the agriculture and industrial fields and sectors as well, and 50,000 acres have been added in the western region of Port-Said, which has been famous for the best agricultural products as well, so as to change some of the agricultural products into different materials as well. Port-Said has been doing a lot so as to improve its fisheries, and in addition to many other efforts in the animal stock, so as to develop the automatic slaughterhouses in Port-Said, and so as to provide the meat and fresh meat to the residents and the citizens of Port-Said. In tourism, we have done a lot so as to develop the walking track in Port-Said, in addition to increasing the number of green areas and incorporating the cultural sites. For the time being, we are going to prepare and rehabilitate the Corniche, looking over the Mediterranean Sea, plus establishing numerous hotels at the coast of the Mediterranean and Suez Canal to take the advantage of the strategic position, commemorating the holy journey of the Holy Family, in addition to the efforts as well, in addition to the efforts of the government to develop most of the historic sites that witness the holy journey of the Holy Family as well. And Port-Said as well, we came to develop the seaports of Port-Said, and so as to obtaining the 10th position for having to achieve 79% out of transit sea transport and trade, in addition to working so hard so as to open a new containers gates, and at the same time, in addition to working so hard so as to diversify our projects to establish the factory to produce the metro gate. At the same time, we did a lot so as to connect the gate with the railways. As for the real estate development for the residents of Port-Said and citizens, we have established more than 4,000 residential units northern part of Port-Said, and we as well established desalination water and electricity and grids through establishing more than 4,000 residential units in Port-Said as well. With full services, we as well completed the strategic project of the residential or housing project, adding more than 11,000 residential units as well. And we welcome partnerships with investors who have the desire so to share our vision to make Port-Said a highly developed city with very motivating investment opportunities as well, with highly trained manpower, and to identify identify the best ways to achieve prosperity and to achieve our goals as well.
I think Nicosia, indeed, if we look into its geographical position at the crossroads, I would say, between continents, but also the crossroads between civilizations, cultures, religions, and with a turbulent history, indeed, is a remarkable example of a city that is thriving economically and is very well known as a hub. Would you please take a couple of minutes to provide us deeper insights on your approach?
Thank you very much. Obviously, Nicosia is not a heavy industry city like Portside, which is obviously an industrial city with a lot of infrastructure like ports. It's predominantly a city of minds, a city of creativity, and a city of excellence. So it's a service-based economy. When we see the city, it's obviously the administrative and financial center. So we have to cater for this reality. We have to gear our infrastructure in order to address the increased visitorship of the city, both from inside the country, but also from international visitors. Moreover, we built on important tax incentives that apply for the whole of Cyprus, but are more related towards the capital city in order to attract international companies that have set up their headquarters in Nicosia, because it's an EU city, it's an EU capital, and that gives them the opportunity to address both the Middle East area, the MENA area, or the EU through Nicosia. Apart from that, having 5 universities, as I said, we pay a lot of attention to research and innovation. So Nicosia has 7 centers of excellence funded by the European Union. It's a record in the European Union. No other country has so many research and innovation centers of excellence, which is a higher level, of course, of scientific research. And we brought together the industry and research so as to create applied solutions and applicable products. And this created a new economy, essentially, giving to the younger generation the path towards STEM, which is a critical issue across Europe with the lack of competitiveness that we are having. But also it created value-added job positions with higher salaries that strengthen the economy and the disposable income of the city. The challenge when you do that is to be able to develop affordable housing before you leave people that are not in that spectrum outside the growth and making the growth inclusive. In terms of infrastructure, we've spent more than 200 million in the last 10 years for accessible infrastructure. Anything that has to do with low pavements at the same level as the streets, yellow parking spots for families and children. We have more than 60% of the city with pavements that enable the blind with special routes, bring in people to utilize that infrastructure. In terms of the economic sector, a lot of it depended on the state in the previous years, and this is what we're changing now. I mean, we created an economic council to the mayor, which consists of all the important groups like the Chamber of Commerce, like the Hospitals Association, and other institutional players, and also private entities, to enable us to formulate policy not on the basis of what the city wants towards the business, but how the business would like the city to operate to accommodate business. And I think in the last 10 months, we've seen a lot of change in that.
Thank you very much. And now to Mrs. Torania, and the moment that I have to confess I have been waiting for days, how to leverage the Olympic Games as an opportunity to transform an entire city. And at this point, I would like to share with you that Vienna wanted to also apply for the Olympic Games, inspired by Paris' example. But unfortunately, we had a referendum and neither the mayor nor myself were able to convince our residents to vote for the Olympic Games. So we missed that chance. Hence, I am always looking into Paris to listen to how you went about involving the people and using the Games as such a chance.
Yes, thank you. I'm very delighted, of course, to speak about the Olympics because it was like an enhanced parenthesis in Paris, and it was not the end, but the beginning of something. And this is really how we thought about the Games, the Olympics and Paralympics. It was a huge catalyst of how we want to transform the city in terms of urban, social, ecological transformation. And yeah, our ambition was to rethink the way we host the Games and to do it as we do it as Parisian and not as, another event. We didn't want to build the game around an event, but around the needs of the city, but also the needs of the inhabitants. So it was really important for us to build a new model for the Olympics. And not just because we are facing the challenges we are facing in ecological transition, in democratic situation in the world, but yeah. So we wanted to build a new model, so this meant that we wanted to build on what was existing. I'm speaking about the infrastructure. So 95% of the infrastructure of the Olympics were already existing or temporary. And we wanted the game to be in the city, from the Eiffel Tower to the River Seine, that the Paris was kind of the stadium, but not just a stadium. And we wanted to design the games not only for, but with the Parisians. And this was really important to answer what you said about the referendum. We didn't want just to be another event. We want to be a Parisian event and to include the citizens in the way we were shaping this event. But most importantly, I think that we wanted the Games to be a lever for public and policy transformation in terms of ecological transformation, of course, but also social inclusion and also long-term resilience of the city because we are facing a lot of challenges. And this is why we wanted the Games to have a strong legacy on the city, and we built a legacy plan 5 years before the Olympics, co-created with the Parisian, with the civil society, with the public sectors, because we wanted the Games to have an impact way more beyond 2024. And just to give you some example of this legacy, in terms of ecological transition, for example, we are opening this summer 3 sites. We are reopening the Seine to swimming, and this is really, a huge achievement done by the mayor of Paris because it required massive investment in terms of treatment of the water, but also restoration of the biodiversity. And reopening the Seine to swimming is not just only a symbol, it's also a new way to redefine the way we are with nature, with biodiversity. And just a few weeks ago, we had, after the Olympics, a citizen conference about the rights of the Seine and how we want to protect the Seine and maybe give rights to the Seine to be able to defend itself. So it's a process. But in terms of ecological, we also rethink some of the big areas. To give you just one example, in the northern district of Paris, in the 18th district, one of the most vulnerable area of Paris, we created 1 arena, 2 gyms, housing for students, a new university campus, 8.5 hectares of green spaces. So it has a long-lasting impact for one of the most underserved districts of Paris. And this is really tangible for the Parisian. But we also have a strong legacy in terms of accessibility and mobility. 17 neighborhoods in the district are now made very accessible for persons with disabilities. We also created more than 60 kilometers of bike lanes in Paris, so this is huge for every Parisian taking the bike every day. We also deployed thousands of bikes in the city, and this is very tangible for a Parisian, not only during the Games, but now you really feel the legacy in the city. But beyond the infrastructure, it's also a social legacy. It's also how we feel about being Parisian and how we feel being part of the city as well. In matter of sport, of course, we have now sports for all, and we saw an increased participation in social sports program, but also for parasport participation. Women also and girls reclaim their place in public spaces through a dispositif called Paris Sportive. We also rethink the way that Parisians feel about themselves in the city because we co-created this plan. We also gave them the opportunity to act and to be part of the Olympics by being volunteer of Paris. This is a community we created, so we trained them in terms of security, in terms of hospitality, how to welcome professionally the tourists, but also the sport delegation. And also in terms of civic pride, you know, the fact that the opening of the ceremony was such an amazing moment, but also the mirror of what French and Parisians are. A lot of what was part of this opening ceremony is now into the public space, such as the statues of strong, iconic women. And of course, we did that by lowering by half, more than half, the carbon footprint compared to what Rio did or London did. And this is also a new standard for big events, and we are very proud of that. So yeah, the Olympics were not just a way of organizing an event, but it was a way of transforming the city, and not just for a few weeks, but for the years to come.
Thank you very much. Indeed, an extremely impressive example. Now back to Muscat. Your Excellency, I think that nobody would actually start a discussion about the importance of public-private partnerships and the investment of the private sector, recognizing that if we want to transform our cities, then we could never do it by the public hand alone. We would always need the private sector to carry most probably, let's say, at least 75 to 80% of the effort. And just to mention one example of a discussion that is ongoing in Europe currently between cities, among cities, we have 100 cities in Europe that have committed, example given, to becoming climate neutral by 2030, who are all currently looking into ways to attract private investment and to embark in public-private partnerships, but on the background of also sometimes bad experiences from the past. So the question I would have for you is, how do you manage to control quality of what is being delivered? And also possibly, do you have something to share with us when it comes into motivating the private sector to invest, and possibly also overcoming regulatory obstacles? Because again, returning to the European context, if we want to embark into public-private partnerships, we have to undergo quite complicated and lengthy procurement processes. So I would be very curious to listen to the way you go about this in Muscat to make the most of leveraging private investment.
Muscat. We used to do landscaping ourselves. That was the classical way of all municipalities in the region. We look after the landscaping of the streets, the cities, the communities, and everything. And after some time, we thought of a way to do it more efficient, and we decided to outsource these services and stay at the governance level of it. So we went back, we redesigned our procedures, our governance needed for that was in place, and we divided Muscat into 5 zones, and then we start designing the scope of work, and we floated to the private sector. We were really very impressed by the outcome of this experience. At the efficiency level, we end up with more, I will say, more green area, as I said, 30% more than what we used to do. The private sector know how to do it. I don't want to say cheaper, but more efficient. So we end up, for every $1 we spend per square meter of the city, we end up with a better number, and we end up with a more saving to the government of what we used to spend as Muscat municipality. How did that, what are the main outcomes? First, we enabled a private sector. Private sector is owned by businessmen, by the community. We are a very young population. We have more than 50% of our population is under the age 25. Half of that are youngsters. People want to see a change in the city, and enabling, I would say, local companies. They got more strength. Some of them now are bidding for other similar projects in GCC because they knew how to do the landscaping, they knew how to do it better, and converting our contracts to be more of a performance-based contract had really helped us. We stayed at the governance. Before, we used to have thousands of people working for us. We were not a municipality, we were more of a catering and housing organization. Now we don't do that anymore. Someone else is doing it better than us with our guidelines. It's a win-win for both of us. There's also another, I will say, opportunities. For example, Muscat Nights is our yearly festival that we do. Before we used to do it all A to Z. Now it's all privatized, the private sector run it. We've got thousands of SMEs that run the whole show of this festival. 93% of the events are managed and operated by the private sector. We allow them to do a revenue share with us. So we enable them. Some of them started with us at the beginning with one, I would say one person on board. Now they have people working for them. So we increased efficiency in the city. We enabled private sector. We created jobs for people through outsourcing some of our services. And now we are looking into privatizing, I would say outsourcing, sorry, some of other services like road maintenance, traffic lights. And also we run one of the biggest, I would say, projects. We were among the 3 biggest cities in the world running the changing the street lights from LED to from sodium to LED, and it was one of the biggest projects since 2018, and we've done it successfully. We've done lots of saving in it, and we also enable private sector to do it. We don't do it alone. So municipalities can really do a lot into the community, not the classic way of just doing the normal municipal, I will say, duties of keeping the city clean and looking after the landscaping and the health affairs. It can do more into turning the city to a place to make business, an easy place to invest, a place to live, as a second home for people to come and live. And people will not come and live in a place where they can do something. If they see all those opportunities, I think they will be motivated to do that. The private sector also in Oman, by law, we enforced that I would say the local content in our tenders. So this enabled the SMEs handling Riyadh. Riyadh as an SMEs privilege program. And by law, we have to award not less than 10% of any tender to them. Local content has to be there. In-country value has to be attendance and all when it's in their hand. And we do conduct cost-benefit study after every exercise we do. And the numbers that we shared with Ministry of Finance, I would say after we outsourced the landscaping, it was very impressive. They liked us. Actually, they fell in love with us after we showed them the numbers. It's better numbers, better spending in every square meter, square meter, yes, in the city. And who wants something better than that? It's a good achievement.
Thank you very much. Now, moving on to Port Said, Mr. General, the list of achievements is indeed impressive. I was listening to you, and there were 2 things that came to my mind. One is that port cities have a legacy in the sense because the port is so dominant in a way that it is quite difficult to develop a notion of a city that is not just a city adjoining a port, right? A city that has its own identity, a city that invests into economic development far beyond just the port. And I think that what you have been investing into is indeed extremely impressive in the sense of becoming something so much more than the port. Now, on the way to this, if I were to ask you what may have been the biggest challenge that you have been facing, and how did you manage to overcome this? For me, it's more important, not to just look into challenges, but to share the wisdom of how did we deal with this in order to be able to implement all of these impressive achievements. What would be the answer? Would the biggest challenge be regulatory restrictions? Would it be access to investment? Would it be funding? Would it be all of it?
One of the most remarkable challenges facing on Portside and the government, the local government in Portside, of course, has been successful in dealing and tracking with this important, challenge. We have the number of population is over 1 million, and we're receiving, applications from young generations applying for jobs as well. So. And because of the resources that we have and having the geographic position and the very important position where it is a coastal city, so we changed the city to become agriculturally, industrially oriented. And what is being done by the government and the local government in Portside as a governorate in developing the industrial sectors, it's doing a great job in the successful implementation of projects as well, in a way that the governorate will come into partnerships with local as well as international investors, and it does its best so as to enter in the capital according to the volume of businesses being done in Portside as well. So what is being provided by the Egyptian government? It provides lands to the investor, and it implements all the types of utilities at the expense of the government and the public expenditure, just as desalination, water desalination, stations and plants as well, and everything that's necessary for the industry, providing manpower within the required specializations. Even if it happens that we introduced industrially specialized fields and areas so that we can achieve the quality and the skill required at the factory. We have schools, technical schools in Portside, which are in the management of the factories that establish such kind of academies. In addition to the technological university in the eastern part of Portside has allowed us so as to add such kind of specializations according to the requirements of the investors. So the local government does its best to continue and the journey of investment, and with the investors will without any interests, at least, for example, in the first period of upon the implementation of the project. At the same time, it helps the investors based on the geographic position in enabling the investor to export all lower, very lower, until he achieves success and comes up with the goals achieved as well. Thank you very much for your question.
Now, moving on to Nicosia, in your first statement, I think you provided us with insights into a strategy of investing in infrastructure, and at the same time doing it in a very inclusive way. So, and I very much appreciate that you also mentioned affordable housing, which is indeed a big challenge, I think, that all of our cities are facing, because with growing economy and with growing economic success, in most of the cases, we have rising prices. But we had a chance to talk to each other before entering the stage this morning, and you mentioned the city's plans towards investing in infrastructure, waste to energy. And you also mentioned how you're doing this in collaboration with other cities. Now, this is a one-time opportunity in this panel to actually look into this. And hence, I would like to ask you to describe to us how you go about leveraging collaborations, cooperation with other cities to take the best solutions to Nicosia.
Well, I mean, if you are a small country, you have to arrange to have access to know-how and to best practices from the bigger examples. So you have to do that in a coordinated and structured way. So as soon as we assume duties, We addressed cities which we consider success stories in various areas. We signed an MOU with the Agency for Economic Development of Austria, which is a semi-governmental organization, to get know-how from Vienna, from its waste to energy and for its traffic management solutions, and we are doing that in a structured way. Essentially, Vienna is funding us to find the solution for Nicosia, and this is quite amazing, and it shows the responsibility of big cities and how they feel that responsibility to share their best practices. We created some of the research centers that I've mentioned before, again, in collaboration with either the public or the private sector of countries abroad. So Science, our biggest research and innovation center, it's a joint venture between the municipality of Nicosia, the 3 public universities, University College London, and Max Planck of Germany. And it's in the space of interactive media, and now we are exporting interactive media, digital twin, and other expertise to these countries and to these cities. So small Nicosia is actually exporting know-how because of the collaboration between different countries. Also, we are the first organization in Cyprus to apply gender budgeting. We drew that expertise from Iceland, actually, from Reykjavik, another small city, but with a very progressive strategy. And we were funded by the Norwegian grants, which have a pillar of inclusivity and the social cohesion in their strategy. In terms of housing now, housing is one of the 3 priorities of the European Union, together with security and improvement of competitiveness. So what we did is very similar to what His Excellency said about Muscat, is to articulate investment opportunities for the private sector. The municipality is not a developer. The municipality is a facilitator and an enabler. So what we did is we said, if for the big investment houses, you need to have sizable projects that will give you the opportunity to address tickets that are usually larger than your size. So we identified 2 areas in the city of 250,000 square meters each. We've actually increased them by 300,000 square meters each, and we created projects which are large by European standards, not by Cyprus standards. And we are doing them by way of concession. One is a sustainability intervention. So we took an area which was considered a real estate sort of filet mignon, as we say, and there was a huge debate whether to build it. West Park is not just, so we identified uses that would contribute to the community, however, making it feasible to maintain that large 300,000 square meter forest park. So we put a research center, our music hall, and we will hope to have 2 more, which is something that Paris has. I was discussing it yesterday with the Vice Mayor. So whatever we do, we involve people by design so that the decisions we make are up to their sort of wishes, not in the populist sense, but in the sense of getting a grasp of what people think. Otherwise, you are isolated, you're sterilized, and you are not able to deliver to the community.
True, thanks very much. Now, coming to you, Mrs. Torania. 2 minutes, please.
Wow.
To give me 1 minute to conclude and make our organizers happy. For us, sticking to the time limit. So, if you were to provide advice to Riyadh, who will be hosting indeed some world-class events in the years to come. So if they invited you to be part of an advisory board, what would be one thing from Paris that you would share with them in terms of going about making the most of this event for the people of Riyadh?
Maybe it will last less than 1 minute, because I would say include the citizens, but not only the citizens as citizens, but because they are the workers of the city, they are the one who lives in the city, who raise their child in the city. So yeah, it's not about just acceptability of the event, but it's also how you think about it, and how you think about the city with, not only for, but with the citizens themselves. So yeah, less than 1 minute conducting the event with the citizens.
Thank you so much for the answer and for the time discipline. Now, concluding this, first of all, I would like to thank you on behalf of myself and I think also on behalf of our audience, because this indeed has been one of the most interesting seminars that I have experienced so early in the morning into urban strategies for economic development and attracting investment. And I think we have been able to touch upon many, many aspects in a very concrete way. We have looked into ways to make, well, let's say, best strategies towards outsourcing, towards economic efficiency, but also quality of results. We have looked into ways to expand the economy of one city into different sectors, create employment, but also skilled working forces to produce a thriving economy, and also very concrete strategies of attracting investment, attracting companies, land policy, grants, etc., tax policy. We have looked into ways to invest into infrastructures, but to do it in a very inclusive way, and to look into creating an economy that is not only growing, but thriving. And for me, the decisive difference between growing and thriving is that thriving will let everybody participate into that, and focus especially on young people, on creating know-how, on sharing know-how, on sharing, as I said, benefits with the entire population. And last but not least, we have looked into ways to make the most of world-class events in a very inclusive way and to the benefit of urban transformation of the entire city. So I would like to invite you to give a big applause to the mayors and vice mayor who have shared their best practices and wisdom with us. And we will do that now. And I would like to ask you to stay on stage, because now we will have the Assistant Mayor of Riyadh, Engineer Saleh Al-Maktoub. I would like to invite him kindly to the stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Dr. Jordi Vaquer.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, sabah al-khair, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Urban Financing Forum, the next session of this fascinating conference. I'm Jordi Vaquer. I'm the Secretary General of Metropolis, which is the World Association of Large Cities and National Capitals, bringing together over 150 cities of 1 million and more from the whole world, currently under the presidency of Mrs. Fatih Al-Mudni, the mayor of Rabat, Morocco. We are here to talk about a topic which interests each and every city in the world: how to finance their urban projects. Cities, as we know, sit at the intersection between public service delivery, infrastructure development, innovation, and crucially, they are the place where the global commitments that we all have, for example, to stop man-made climate change or to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, become true. Those commitments can only be achieved through local action. So it is cities that need to operationalize climate targets, resilience agendas, care systems, all sorts of global commitments. And yet, despite this central role that cities have in our jointly agreed global goals, city budgets very often fall short of matching the scale and the complexity of the needs of urban life. Here can help cities overcome barriers, form coalitions, and implement projects that are aligned with these global objectives. At Metropolis, at this organization of large cities and metropolitan areas, we have realized that it's very important to broaden the access of funding, of cities to funding, and to strengthen the capacities of the cities to present projects and get them funded. So these can be achieved with the support that organizations like ours can provide in terms of project design, strategic resource planning, navigating funding ecosystems, and also, and this is what brings us together here, connecting with organizations, international institutions that have realized the importance of cities in this funding space, and yet are not always prepared or sometimes don't have the direct access to the cities that would allow them to work directly with local authorities. And this is why we've created formats like today's, but we also have other formats. At Metropolis, for example, we have an international fund for metropolises where large cities of the whole world are able to present their projects to support, in this case, care systems and caregivers. And we, in that case, match together development-oriented and philanthropic actors and cities that are working on this area. Today, we have an Urban Financing Forum, which is the direct result of another event which we held in Brussels 2 years ago, an investment forum, which in Brussels brought together, during our conference of Metropolis, cities and potential funders that were interested in being part of this transformative story at urban level. We did it together with the Global Fund for Cities Development, which is best known by its French acronym, FMDV. And 2 years on, we can already say this was a success. Half of the projects that were discussed that day in that investment forum either accessed new funding or accelerated funding so that they could really implement their projects. But more than that, we realized that it is important to keep organizing these spaces, where more and more international institutions will be exposed to the projects and the proposals of cities, and more international cities will understand the thinking behind those who make decisions about funding local projects internationally. This is not an obvious match. It is, in many cases, one that's full with obstacles. Cities need sometimes the approval of their national governments. Donors sometimes need to change their mechanisms in order to be able to work with cities. And yet, we think it's a very fertile ground and one which has a lot of promise for the future. So, inspired by this success in Brussels a bit more than 2 years ago, the Arab Urban Development Institute and Metropolis came together to organize a new edition here in Riyadh as part of the Arab European Cities Dialogue. And here we are in the Urban Financing Forum, which is not just a platform, it's a mechanism to turn ambition into action. We look forward to the collaborations, the insights, and the commitments that will emerge from today's discussion. And I'd like to thank, first of all, the funding institutions for coming all the way here to Riyadh, for being ready to listen, to comment, to make us understand how they are thinking about projects, but also, very importantly, the dozens of cities that have presented excellent projects. You will hear some of them today. Unfortunately, there were many more very good projects which couldn't make it here. Maybe some of you are in the audience. We want to thank you for sending these projects. The time is limited, but the projects were excellent, many more than you will see today. And having said all that, I'd like to call to the floor the moderator for this first section of the Urban Financing Forum, Mr. Kyle Farrell, who's the Senior Urban and Regional Economist of the United Nations Human Settlement Program, UN Habitat, who will be moderating the session on partnerships, investment, and
Good morning and welcome to the Urban Financing Forum. It's a real pleasure to have you here today. Among us are city leaders, representatives from development banks and funds, and colleagues from across the sectors, all gathered to tackle one of the most pressing and complex challenges of our time, financing for sustainable urban development. So my name is Kyle Farrell. I'm a senior urban economist with UN Habitat Saudi Arabia office. I will be your moderator today alongside my colleague, Ms. Karen Maguire, head of OECD's Local Employment and Economic Development Program. So this forum is about connection between vision and action, between cities and capital, and between the urgent needs of communities and the tools, knowledge, and financial instruments that can help them. We are all aware that cities are where the future is unfolding, and yet the financing to support that future is often fragmented, inadequate, and often out of reach for many. And that's what we're here to discuss today. We're going to begin this morning with a conversation with development banks and funds to better understand how they are approaching urban finance, what they are prioritizing, and what advice they have for cities. This will be followed by a city action track where cities will be sharing or pitching projects that they are currently seeking financing for and receiving insights from the development banks and funds on how to unlock new forms of financing. So with that, I'd like to kick off our first segment and invite our representatives from the development banks and funds to join me up here on the stage. So can I have Ms. Anika Henry, head of UN Road Safety Fund and Office of the UN Secretary General Special Envoy for Road Safety? Engineer Bandar bin Abdullah Al Obeid, Director General of MENA Operations for the Saudi Fund for Development. Mr. Stefan Achia, Manager Urban Development for the African Development Bank. And Mr. Walla Assais, Deputy Director, Head of Syndication for the African Finance Corporation. All right, welcome everybody. So, before we begin, I want to provide an opportunity for each of you to introduce your institution, your main areas of intervention, and some of the current priorities related to financing for urban development. So maybe, Anika, we can begin with you.
Hello, good morning. So my name is Anika Henry, and I'm wearing two hats here. I'm the head of the UN Road Safety Fund Secretariat, and this is the part of the UN system that's providing seed funding to work on the topic of road safety, safe mobility. And I'm also the head of the Office of the UN Secretary General Special Envoy for Road Safety, Mr. Jean Todt, and his office is working on the advocacy side of the issue of promoting road safety, which is a topic which I know is pertinent to all local governments in this room and outside of the room. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Anika.
Yeah,
Engineer
thank
Van
you,
Dam.
Kyle. Thank you for that. Invite me for this important forum. If you allow me to speak in Arabic, if you can put the headset, I would be pleased. شكرا لكم على
When we are, of course, now I'm very happy to get together with the strategists and with the people, our counterparts here. Of course, let's talk about the Saudi Development Fund. Mendes Abdallah, engineer, general director of the operations, and we, of course, working in the field of conducting studies on financing in the Saudi Development Fund in the Arab world as well. They have been working before in the eastern part of Asia, in addition to some European countries in the Gulf area as well, region, and been working with the international organizations in achieving the sustainable development, working so hard so as to provide all the loans, basically, and providing technical assistance support to the implementation bodies and governments at the same time. And what is being provided by the government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, such as the grants to the beneficiaries and other countries around the world, so as to help them implement such kind of projects. We have a board of directors, in addition to executive management, and where they overview all the reports. We have a vision as well, so to become a strategic partner enabling sustainable economic growth and development in the rest of the world, at the same time to provide economic development through providing human resources, technical resources, and benefit from all the aspects of power in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, applying the requirements of the partners and fulfilling the needs as well. So we have great passion, and this is the thing that we're doing at the Saudi Development Fund. And we have great passion, work within passion, cooperation, sustainability, and adapting with the world over increasing transformations. One of the things that we are focusing on in the Saudi Development Fund is to seek integration with the beneficiaries, in addition to our stakeholders as well. In stakeholders, in the development processes, are working so hard to achieve the sustainable development goals of the United Nations. And this is the big title under which we're working so hard. And we have been working. In Pacific and in Asia as well. Over 290 projects in Latin America and the Caribbean as well. Over 27 projects in so different sectors. We have providing development loans and financing loans submitted by $20 billion US dollars, and and grants estimated by 22 billion Saudi riyals on behalf of the kingdom. And we, of course, we work in so many fields such as electricity, agriculture, and energy, mining, industry and mining, and supporting and international development organizations. One of the most important projects that I've been providing when you could go, digging wells, water wells, for 40 years we are doing so. We have been working so many different parts of the world in more than 25 countries, so as to provide fresh, clean water to the beneficiaries of such countries, and on behalf of the government of these countries, also provide fresh water in the African countries. This is everything we're doing, and we're providing in the Saudi Development Fund.
Thank you very much. And first of all, I'd like to thank, on behalf of the African Development Bank, thank for the kind invitation to this wonderful event. And thank you so much. I'm really very happy to be back in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and to the beautiful city of Riyadh. So the African Development Bank, as my old boss used to tell us, we have two jobs. One is to mobilize resource from technical assistance to studies, especially investments, infrastructure investments in water, sanitation, transport, affordable housing, and others. And we're here like a regional development bank, just like our sister organization next door at the Islamic Development Bank based in Jeddah, the Asian Development Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank. And we provide either a grant or concession or loans to our countries. We can also do subnational finance. That means we can lend directly to cities. The second element is to provide good advice. And this is what's really wonderful about this event, is that we can actually learn from the experience from the Arab and European cities that are here present. We serve 54 member countries on the continent. 10 are actually members of the Arab League: Algeria, Comoros, Djibouti, Egypt, Libya, Mauritania, Morocco, Somalia, Sudan, and Tunisia. So for us, a lot of our countries are here present, but we, of course, we serve the rest of the continent. We ship out about $10 billion every year, less than our colleagues in the Saudi Fund, but the needs are way above, and the question is, how do we fill in the gaps? So the African continent is, on the urban side, moving very fast, and from UN Habitat you will know about this, and I'll come back to it afterwards. And how do we finance the growth of cities and
is a leading multilateral financial institution focused on sustainable infrastructure development. We're dedicated to catalyzing the infrastructure development in Africa and accelerating Africa's industrialization. We were established in 2007 through a treaty among sovereign states. What's our mandate? Our mandate is threefold. One is to address the infrastructure deficit in Africa by providing pragmatic financing solutions and technical advice to support critical infrastructure. Number two is to help to accelerate economic growth and industrialization by supporting projects with developmental impact. And number three is to help to facilitate the involvement of African and global private sector players by de-risking projects in Africa and leveraging partnerships. We have 5 key areas of focus. We provide solutions in the power sector, so everything from power generation to transmission to distribution. So we've done something more recently in Djibouti, for example, where we've financed a wind power project in Djibouti, 60 megawatts, which allows Djibouti to rely less on importation of power from Ethiopia and to also reduce its use of diesel fuel, which obviously is in line with the global energy transition. We focus on energy resources, so oil and gas and mining. We also look at transportation and logistics. So we've done something a couple of years ago in Mauritania, where we built a port in Mauritania. And we also focus on heavy industries, telecommunications, and technology. We are rated A3 by Moody's and AAA by S&P China. By virtue of the way we've been set up as a public-private partnership, we have diverse shareholders. So we have sovereign shareholders, quasi-sovereign shareholders. We have financial institutions, pension funds. We have regional asset managers and multilaterals that are shareholders of AFC. We have quite a unique business model in that, although we are a multilateral financial institution, we have a twin goal. One is obviously developmental impact, which is very critical for us, and then also ensuring that we have adequate returns for our shareholders, because we also have private shareholders, and that's one of the ways to be basically crowding capital for us to continue to ensure that we have developmental impact. Number two is that we have an end-to-end investment process, and so we're looking at everything from project development all the way through the investment lifecycle to ensure that we have ability to deliver the impact that we want. We're very innovative, flexible in the way that we're structuring solutions, and we also provide both public and private investments. What's our investment approach? We have 4 ways of looking at things. We're looking at project development, so we're looking at ways to ensure that we have bankable transactions that we can deploy capital to. On the investment cycle, we're able to deploy debt, mezzanine, equity, anything in the capital structure, as long as we can structure it we're happy to deploy capital to that. So we look at project finance, corporate finance. We finance sovereigns, quasi-sovereigns, and that allows for us to also look at states, municipalities, and cities. And then we also look at financial institutions and trade finance. And we also have a platform strategy in that we aggregate single assets and ensure that we can create a platform that allows for us to be able to provide exit for our shareholders and investors. And then we also look at an ecosystem approach where we're looking at creating industrial zones, which allow for us to have multiple interconnected projects coexisting in one economic zone. And we've had a number of investments that we've been able to make impact through that process. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you for that. And as you guys are all aware, many of the representatives in the audience today are coming from local governments. So it'd be interesting if you could shed some light on how your institutions partner with local governments to support sustainable urban development. Maybe we'll start from this side again with you, Anika.
Okay, thank you so much. So I think the first thing to say is at the UN, generally speaking, but just everyday road users, I think it would be a fair point to make that a livable city is one that's safe. I think no one would argue with that. And for us, we're working with local governments across the world to explore how can we reduce road deaths and road injuries in the cities to make them, more livable, more safe. So, for example, when we map this issue of motorcycle safety and how they can address that through a master plan, which is critical. But then when we go to Colombia, for example, in Bogota, the government there, the local government is saying that the issue is the road user behavior. And so how can we support them in building capacity so that they can really engage with communities, so that how they design the streets is really engaging with the communities through the design process, but also in the implementation process, with the expectation based on evidence that the road user behaviors will also be safer and be improved because of that community engagement from the beginning. But the skills and the expertise in actual community engagement to improve road safety, it's almost a science. And so this is where we come in to really bring that training capacity building in Bogota. We have other examples in Addis Ababa where it's about making cities, we call it the reclaiming of the cities and the streets for pedestrians and cyclists. And we have many other examples in Mozambique and others. In Vietnam, we look at safe school zones in the urban places. And so what we're doing is every year, typically, we launch a call for proposals. And we say, look, we're looking on ways that we can support local government and federal governments on improving road safety. In the particular case of local governments, how can we improve road safety to make your cities safer and more livable? And then we receive up to 100 proposals each year, and we have experts who go through and really assess the proposals. So I'm happy to be here because there's a lot of experience gained from looking at proposals and making feedback and screening that. And then finally, we release seed funding for about 8 to 10 projects. Each project is probably around $500,000. So it's very small funding, looking at the capacity building side of things. Putting in place a regulation or a law or a master plan or a design. We've got some great tools at the UN as well, which helps us to look at certain metrics and embedding that in your proposals. So there's a range of support that we provide and collaborate on with local governments to make the cities safer and more livable.
I've noticed a lot of people taking notes in the audience, so very good, thank you. Engineer Bandar.
شكرا كايل. In fact, because we are working بسبب انه نعمل في كثير من او في مجال التنميه فاحنا دائما ما نقول ما نوعز للحكومه.
When we talk about the development process, we invite all governments, for instance, to study the needs and requirements as well. If there is something necessary in a city, you need, for example, to identify the needs of citizens, to provide the proper services, and to facilitate the process of providing services and means of life, and to provide services in a much better way, in a way that will meet expectations of citizens in all forms as well. Many governments and many local governments or municipalities work work on concentrating on considering some sectors at the expense of other sectors, against other sectors, so as to achieve some sort of better outcome. So what the good thing first we want to address here, and this can be taken into consideration by the local authorities. They have to focus on priorities and the master plans, so as to be enabled to carry out the master plan to provide the service to citizens in a much better way. Later on, the task force and working groups. So they have to come up with working groups so as to implement such kind of projects, taking and the benefit from international practices from other countries, and to identify the priorities so as to implement and based on statistical analysis that can be of a great value to governments. They have to identify the number of people and number of persons or citizens in each hospital, for example, to assess the quality of roads. All of these things need to be considered. All the development sectors need to be studied well by the local governments and by the local municipalities, so as to identify their priorities, to know the points of weakness and strength as well, according to which they are going to build the national strategic plan as well. The Saudi Development Fund is always keen to raise such kind of questions to the local municipalities and governments as well, so as to identify their priorities. Why? Because this is the first important thing for all of us, so as to allocate funds to projects in such countries as well. There must be a high level of concentration of such kind of priorities as well. Will never be very practical for years because of the lack of planning, pre-planning as well for such kind of projects. So we don't have to come up with random decisions or random planning. We need to identify the priorities of projects. We need to prepare for each project, its priorities and visibility studies, in addition to the designs, selecting the highly qualified staff as well, so as to lead such kind of project. These are the most important considerations we need to take on account as well. So if you have a very well conducted study, this will deal with 25% of the problems of the project as well, in addition to the other role played by the team who are supervising and who are working the most in the project. We always appeal to the authorities and local authorities that they must come up with a very well prepared plan and master plan as well, so to implement such kind of project. This will help a lot to have better implementation. So sometimes we appoint an advisor or a consultant who will so as to review all the documents of the project and to supervise the operation process and the implementation process. And the local authorities can benefit from the expertise provided by the experts and the specialists well in the project as well, so that we can actually raise the efficiency capacity. And in addition to discussing all of the details regarding the implementation and the operation of the project. And this is very important project.
Great. And Stefan?
Thank you. Let me reiterate what my colleague from the Saudi Fund just mentioned. For those who don't know Africa, let's just a quick setup on the scene here. Today, Africa has about 700 million people living in cities. By 2050, the study we just done with OECD, we are expecting about 1.5 billion people living in our cities. For comparison, by 2050, we expect that Africa will be the second continent with the largest urbanized population, Asia being ahead with about 3.5 billion, and Africa 1.4 billion. What that means that we're going to have about more than 150 cities with more than 1 million people, but 17 cities are going to be mega cities with more than 10 million people. We expect that 2 out of every 3 Africans will be living in cities. 60% of those cities are yet to be built and will be built during the next 30 years. Looking at money, because that's what we are talking here, the average direct government expenditure per capita around the world is around $822 per capita. In Europe, it's about $1,750 per capita. In Asia, about $650. In Africa, we're just around $100 per capita of investment from government. So we have a massive amount of urban growth to cater for, but the resource available is very limited. So now we have to be very inventive. How do we increase and leverage? Our colleagues from the IFC yesterday were talking about how to leverage the balance sheets of our cities. So we have to go from the start. Our colleague from Saudi Fund is 100% right. We have to start from the level of the policies. One of the big issues that we have on the continent is the issue of decentralization. Do I simply decentralize politically, or do I decentralize fiscally? Cities are relying a lot on the grant allocation, but sometimes they cannot borrow on their own balance sheet. Then we have the issue of planning, and that's one thing we're going to look afterwards when we're going to discuss projects. Are projects part of a broader master plan? I've been discussing with our colleagues here from the municipality of Riyadh and looking at the extremely wonderful plan that they have. It's very structured. You are using what we call operational discipline, something that we need to learn from a city like Riyadh. Then you have programs, investment programs, and inside the programs you're going to have the projects. Some projects are going to be attractive to the private sector. Some projects will not be attractive to the private sector. Those are obligations from the state to provide those resources. So we, as a development bank, we need to find the right equilibrium. Some things have to be taken by the state, some things can be brought by the private sector. What is for sure, the private sector in Africa is extremely dynamic. They're moving forward. Governments sometimes are a bit behind. They need to catch up, especially on the bulk infrastructure. My colleagues talk about share experience, what has been done, for example, in the Arab world to be able to meet the needs for affordable housing. So the bank can provide a lot of, we're like a Swiss Army knife, and we can actually provide all sorts of activities. But to be able to have a project to be financed, the project needs to be prepared. And that is a big stumbling block, and I think we'll talk about it later. Are the projects prepared? Can those projects be prepared? And we provide, for example, technical assistance. We have something called the Urban and Municipal Development Fund, providing up to 1.5 million for just preparing projects. So then they can be bankable. And that includes the technical side of the study, as well as environmental and social impact, which is very important for us. Our colleague is saying, if you don't have this, you don't have a project. So the preparation is extremely important. The plans, make sure that they are part of the plans. And then we have a real project to be able to finance. And our jobs, our headache is to mobilize those resources for the cities, which we can do. Thank you.
Those statistics really strike me as well. The pace and scale is on a next level on the African continent there. So needs to be a very intentional process, as you mentioned. Wola, over to you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think at AFC, we would obviously like the local governments, metropolitan governments, to see us as a partner of choice. We have, for example, a public sector advisory financing program that we have, and so we're able to provide funding for initial project studies, which is critical for states and municipalities and cities. We also have ability to provide project planning financing and pre-feasibility study financing, so that's also available there from us. Also project development assistance, which is critical because we need to ensure that projects that are brought to us are bankable, so that's also financing that we're able to provide to ensure that we have the ability to have bankable transactions. And then more from a sovereign perspective, we're able to provide loans, we're able to provide guarantees, and other sort of structured solutions, including swaps, for example. So just to give some examples of some of the things that we've done, for example, in Côte d'Ivoire, we have provided a sovereign loan to Côte d'Ivoire, and there the use of proceeds go into financing a network of urban road infrastructure. And so this goes down to a trickle-down effect to ensuring that there is that urban road development. In Senegal, for example, we've also provided a sovereign loan to Senegal, where the use of proceeds are going to a number of pipeline projects, including, for example, water sanitization projects for urban city centers. And then in Nigeria, for example, we are working on a big infrastructure project there. It's about $1.8 billion of infrastructure investment. We're looking at a rail project all the way from the north of Nigeria in Kano, going all the way to Niger in Maradi. And there, obviously, the rail is passing through a number of states, going through a number of municipalities and cities, and this is obviously to help to facilitate the movement of goods and services across that corridor. We've also have been chosen as a partner of choice by a number of partners, including the US and EU, where we are an implementing developer for the Lobito corridor, which is a critical infrastructure corridor to allow for rail going all the way from Angola to DRC, which is very critical, obviously, for the energy transition globally. So we'd like for cities to see us as a partner of choice.
So I imagine there's a lot of cities in the audience right now thinking about how they can approach each one of you in terms of potential sources of finance, but also in terms of technical advisory support as well. So I want to ask you some more targeted questions just to unpack the themes you're working with and how you operate as an entity. So I've got a question here for each one of you. We'll start with you, Anika. Given the central role of road safety and sustainable urban mobility, how can cities better integrate road safety considerations into their urban infrastructure and financing proposals to align with your priorities and attract potential support?
Thank you. So I think the starting point is really based on is it that you need to make the school zone safer? So I think the first thing there is to really try to gather as much data as possible to really prove the case that this is an issue that requires, some sort of investment. And then from there, really going to apply then what is the correct responses for those sort of risk factors. So making sure that the approaches and responses that are put in there are evidence-based, that you have proof that these will actually work and deliver the results. Of course, it's helpful that you put what those results will be. Decrease in injuries, or a higher engagement from communities, or better speed management by patrolling, and what are the metrics that you're going to be using. Those need to be clearly defined. And of course, every investor wants to see what is the return on the investment. So I think it's very important these sorts of elements are in there to really make the case, really starting from the why and the how, and how are we going to deliver on those results. I think those are some of the things that I would want to mention in response initially.
Very useful, thank you. Engineer Bandar, you mentioned that the Saudi Fund has a long history of financing infrastructure in developing countries. You also touched upon some of the themes that you're working with. Could you maybe narrow it down a little bit to the core themes and types of projects that are aligned with your financing? And what advice would you offer cities seeking to strengthen the bankability of their proposals?
موضوع مهم جدا حقيقة بعد ما تكتمل الدراسات وبعد.
My colleague, of course, mentioned something very important. Of course, after studying the priorities, either it will go in the hands of the private sector or the self-funding or external funding to such projects. So this is very important before where to go and what type of financing institutions we have to cooperate with or to ask the assistance of. And thank you very much for talking about such important topic as well, which is very attractive point to the private sector. Why? Because private sector plays an important role, and instead of actually putting burdens on the public sector as well. As for the Saudi Development Fund, sometimes we ask. We of course ask the companies or the sectors or the local governments so as to apply in a formal way through the planning ministry, because the planning minister, the minister of planning, is responsible. So we receive the application or request from such local governments, and the request is accepted. Are requests which are related to achieving the sustainable goals, development goals. We focus on sustainable goals, the infrastructure, providing service to citizens, and education services, water, fresh water supplies, agriculture, improving all the economic aspects. And these are the things that we're focused on, because sustainable development comes as one of the most important priorities. So the more we increase the goals, the achieved goals of the projects, the more we are able to finance and we're able to allocate funds as well. So to achieve food security, we focus on food security or agriculture development, jobs generation, creation of jobs, improving economy, and all of these goals are very important for all of us. And the more goals are achieved in this regard, the more we are attracted to provide allocation of funds as well. So we have numerous initiatives that can be benefited by the local governments, and the governments, local governments that are interested in such projects will, before we launch the initiative of food security, before with allocation of funds estimated by $10 billion US dollars allocated to finance such kind of projects in food security products, and through the Arab Coordination Committee, as a member of the Saudi Development Fund, the council of this group, of course, they are developing projects related to the climate change and clean energy related projects and agriculture projects as well. And in addition to projects that are focusing on climate change negative repercussions, any project that we're studying and that has to be in compliance with the national priorities and the needs as well. So we cannot accept any project without or not. So many institutions they ask the international financial institutions to provide such kind of service. And instead, the Saudi Development Fund does its best so as to provide different options of financing as well, in addition to providing financial support to mega projects as well, and through inviting other partners to be incorporated in the project. These are the advantages and incentives that we are providing in the Saudi Development Fund. And instead of going to going to the international financial institutions, and especially here in one of the projects that we started, it was in Tunisia as well. They asked us so as to allocate funds, but we're talking about 400 million US dollars. That we contacted the partners and we give them the full sum of money, and we started implementation. Another project in Pakistan, an amount of 1.5 billion US dollars. And we contacted our partners in Pakistan as well, working all together so as to facilitate allocating such finance. And we are participating with international partners in covering some of the aspects through providing technical support and the necessary fund, and making sure of the level of transparency in the spending choosing the contractors as well, and the proper contractor, the highly qualified advisory houses, and monitoring and oversight. And many countries do this along with the implementation plan. They are oversighting such projects as well. We always talk to our partners. If they have complete study for the project, they can actually apply with such kind of projects as well. And you can come to us so as to ask for the funds once we receive the request, and then we can communicate with you so as to assess the financial aspects and technical aspects of the project. If the project is visibly considered, and we came across the agreement of all details related to the technical and the financial support aspects, we go into implementation process until we come to the operation stage. These are the stages what we take into consideration so as to provide allocation of funds.
Sustainable development goals, but also the importance of local governments aligning with national goals and the global goals itself. So important to think about those linkages in the types of projects that you're working with as well. I'll shift over to Stefan. The African Development Bank has played a significant role in the green transition. From your experience, what should cities prioritize when designing green and climate resilient urban projects to ensure that they're both attractive to financiers like yourself, but also contributing to sustainable urban development in their communities?
Thank you very much. I'll just build on what Engineer Banda just mentioned on the preparation and the part of the plans. One thing is for sure is that we cannot go on urban development as we've been doing before. We need to change our mindset. Visiting Riyadh lately and the large urban space, the greenery, we talked about it yesterday also. I think our colleague from the city of Nice was talking about those elements. It's extremely important. We actually encourage in the design stage of the project how those will be taken in the shape. For example, how much trees you're going to be planting as part of the road expansion, how much shade you're going to be providing. So that is very important. In the country on which we are evolving in the region here, in Algeria, we're doing large railway projects, and that element of urban development is very important. In Comoros, for example, we are currently preparing with the Urban Fund a smart city program for Comoros. And that is something that we could actually use a lot of experience here from the GCC. In Djibouti, my colleagues are currently there right now to reorganize the center, the old city of Djibouti, how to provide better water, sanitation, road, power, and also greenery. It's a very hot city, so how do we cool down the hot spots? We discussed that yesterday also. We are re-engaging, of course, Egypt is a huge country, the needs there way. That is something that the Urban Fund, for example, of the bank is helping the city of Nouakchott. In Morocco, we have so much projects going in Morocco from airports and rails and ports. But even in Port City, for example, we provide resources in Nador West. The east part of Nador is where the city had to develop. So we provide two financing. One is for the port and one is for the rehabilitation of the city for the expansion. Somalia is interesting. We have a lot of internally displaced population. And where do they go? They go to cities. So yesterday you had a small village. Today it's become a city because people have come in. So you need to provide resources to build housing, roads, power. So we're currently going to the board in the city, the village now, a city of Dolo in Somalia. Sudan right now, we cannot too much intervene in Sudan, but we are very much intervening in Tunisia, in Tunis. On the environment side, for example, in Tunisia, and our colleagues from Tunisia are here, how do you invest in upgrading your waste collection system? I mean, often you have systems that have been here for 10, 20, 30 years. Of course, after all this time, you need to be upgrading them. Otherwise, the landfill are full. So how do you do it in an environmentally conscious way? So sometimes you have to go up the stream and in the design to see how you're going to be maybe separating the garbage before it goes. So all those elements are looked at. And sometimes we think that the environmental and social impact assessment will actually cover it, but it won't. What it needs to do is at the design level, the concept needs to be sustainable from the get-go. So that is where new thinkings are brought. Exchange like we're having right now between the European cities and the Arab cities are very important. And maybe I will ask, maybe as an idea, that we have a Arab-Africa dialogue as a future exchange. I think that would be something that I would really wish for, to exchange the ideas and experiments on the sustainable projects. Thank you.
And finally, to Walla, it was mentioned actually in Stefan's address from the previous round of questions, he had underscored some of the areas where there is a major infrastructure deficit in Africa. Just want to hear from you, what approaches or project characteristics have you seen help cities unlock the kinds of capitals needed to scale infrastructure sustainably?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, at AFC, in the last 17 years, we've deployed about $15 billion of capital. And we are constantly raising equity. And on the back of that, we're able to leverage up 3 to 4 times. But obviously, this is just a drop in the ocean. I mean, we're able to finance ourselves in the capital markets. So we've been able to raise Sukuk financing. We're able to do a Kimchi issuance, a samurai bond. We go to the Eurobond market. We have bilateral lines with other developmental institutions, syndicated facilities. But all of this allows us to be able to raise capital. And one of the key things that is very important for us is to be able to de-risk projects. And so those are the kind of things that we at AFC are looking at. As I mentioned, we have certain sectors that we look at, in terms of the 5 key sectors. We look at the sovereigns as well, but we need to be able to de-risk those projects. And by virtue of doing that, we're able to then be able to bring in investors behind us, and so through co-investment structures, and also by the virtue that we have an A3 rating from Moody's that allows for us to be able to provide certain credit enhancements that gives investors comfort, but also the fact that we're a multilateral institution gives us certain privileges and immunities in the member countries where we operate. Today we have 45 member countries in Africa, that are members of AFC. We've made investments in about 36 of those African countries. And as a way to also raise capital, we also have set up a subsidiary called AFC Capital Partners that is raising a maiden fund called the Infrastructure Crisis Resilient Fund. And that fund is effectively going to be making investments, equity, mezzanine investments in climate adaptation, climate mitigation projects. And today they've raised about $240 million from the Green Climate Fund and raised capital from other investors as well. And the nameplate fund size is going to be about $750 million where we're going to deploy capital. Now, for us to continue to be able to deploy that capital and to get co-investments coming in, we've been able to put in place a number of structures that allow for us to effectively investors. And so we've done a lot of work with European investors that want to take investments in a more of a fixed income format based on regulatory requirements. And that has been a successful program. But also because we have an A3 rating, we're able to provide guarantees that allow for us to be effectively able to bring in investors that sit behind us.
Thank you for that. Now, we've all got a little insight now into the thinking behind development banks and funds, and that really sets the stage for our next session. So now we're going to transition to the city action track, where we're going to hear from some of the cities themselves. Before we do, I'd like to give a round of applause to our amazing panelists here, so thank you. And I'm going to invite to the stage the next moderator, which will be Karen Maguire of the OECD. And I'm also going to thank Walla and Stefan for their contributions, and they're going to be replaced by their colleagues. So I'll ask Mr. Neji Larbi and Mr. Nasiru Kwazi Brahima to join us on the stage. Thank you.
Great. So thanks again, Kyle, and to the great panel, where I think we got a lot of great insights on what to look for in these perspective for funding and financing of projects. So now we're going to get in, as Kyle said, to the city action track. So my name is Karen Maguire. I'm from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and we provide a lot of comparative data and analysis, policy guidance, standards, and peer exchange on almost all policy topics. But I'm coming specifically from the center in the OECD that focuses on these issues of local development, urban planning, urban development, and subnational finance, and lots of different exchanges and peer networks to talk about these issues. But let me just give you a little overview of the next 2 rounds of sessions we're going to have in the city action track. So what we're going to do is we're going to hear from 2 rounds of 4 cities each. Now, as Jordi mentioned in the beginning, Metropolis had a big set of proposals, 40. They have selected 8 for us today. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have an opportunity to learn from their projects, and then we're going to have an opportunity to get some feedback from our panelists who are used to looking at these kinds of projects. Now, this is in the spirit of peer exchange and
وعندما نتكلم عن هذا الأمر وما هي الرؤى الإرشادية في العديد من الدول التي لديها تلك الصور التي لكي تحصل على التمويل، وهذا الأمر ينطوي على كثير من الأشياء التي يمكن أن نتعلمها كثير جدا من خلال تلك الاقتراحات المشروعات. ولذلك سيكون لدينا متحدث سوف يخصص 10 دقائق لكي يقوم بالحديث عن الموضوع من خلال مشاركة المشروعات معنا، ولذلك سوف نحصل على دراسة راجعة من المشاركين في تلك الجلسة. دعونا نبدأ الآن. وفيما يتعلق بهذا هذه المناقشة، هؤلاء الذين يتكلمون اللغة الفرنسية يمكنكم أن تستعينوا بأجهزة الترجمة الفرنسية. وسوف ندعو الآن السادف فلورنس تورا ومسؤولة عن مدينة نيس، وسوف تتكلم عن المشروعات المختلفة في مدينة نيس. سادرسوا.
et de son adjointe.
Welcome to this important session. We are so proud. Is organized with high level of concentration, and of course comes with the participation of the United Nations, in addition to the African Bank as well. We're going to talk about one of the most important models regarding the establishing tramway and Nice in the line number 4. The line number 4, and this tramway, this the new big project, and it's very ambitious a project as well, so as to improve with high level efficiency and effectiveness as well, and to improve mobility in Nice city, and it's a very comprehensive project. It's a very important project, and and it includes all different types of the mobility regulations. And in Nice, we have 150 kilometers of beaches in Nice, in addition to a big number of tourists who come to visit the city. We have millions of residents and inhabitants who are living in the coastal cities and the other cities. Well, that's look over the beaches. As we know all, Nice is an international city. It's a global city. It has a great participation with the Arab and Mediterranean cities, and it's a European city, and has a high level of cooperation with Alexandria in Egypt. We have international partners, and we have partnerships and Arab partners, and we learn from others, and they learn from us as well. And this is the tramway project as well. We can explain in details as a great example of work and to regulate for urban mobility, and at the level of mobility, and at the same time it could be a good example for southern part of Europe as well, to improve all the transport services in this important region. This is a very important project, and here we have the second airport in Nice. It's located in Nice, and every year we have 6 million visitors who annually come to visit Nice city, and from the neighboring cities. In addition, we have the second important seaport. We have 40 million passengers. This is the second important seaport and the coast. And we have Nice. In Nice, we have 13 lines in Nice, and we have numerous trains in Europe and Africa. We have a center. We have the exhibition center, and we have a conference center provided with all the services. And these are the numbers of figures we can explain. We have 80% of the residents of the causes who are benefiting from this tramway line, and we have many beneficiaries. They use this line number 4, and they will benefit from this line as we'll have. And in this fourth line, we're going to grow trees on both sides of the tramway, and this region will be highly developed. And on the occasion of establishing such a project, and this project as well will reduce the carbon emissions, dioxide carbon emissions. And from 2019 to 2026 as well, we're going to obtain a lot of grants, and this project is will start in 2026. And this project And we will, as you can see on the right side of this picture, this is the airport on the right, and all the lines are being developed along with the activities from the eastern part to the western part, and would like to stress the importance of this important project to our partners as well, and to say that that this project is very important, and we have high quality of life as for an environmental related issues as well. It's attractive project, and at the same time it is and we have an organization that evaluates and assesses all the environmental issues as well, that will respond to the standards of sustainable development. Being in the southern part of France as well, they have the Capital Project, and we have the great support as well. As you know, this is the company Energies. We have this company, we have an experimental project, the pilot product, and we have administration. What are the outcomes? If you look at the outcomes, then easy access, and an easy access is access, accessibility, people accessibility, and at the same time we came to regard the life quality. We have taken into consideration of the quality of air. And we adopted flexibility and agility, and that's important in the project that will reduce hazards, and it will be earthquake resistant based concept, and and at the same time, so we didn't have an issue with the cities that are very close to trees as well, because we are very interested in energy and renewable energy and renewable energy and clean energy, and at the same time we are going to take into consideration very important steps as for the climate change related issues, the support and the cost. We will allocate 30 million euros. We have 14 million euros until today under allocation. So we're doing our best so as to focus on investments as well. So we're looking for support or funding and extra funding to the 30 million euros that we received from the government as well. We are in the phase of looking for partners to support and to finance this project. This project will come into light, and as you can see, and it's not a tramway, but it's a new vision for a city. It's a new vision for a city that will be very agile and very flexible as well. That will be complying with the requirements of environment, because the tramway will open new horizons for citizens, more than cars, and for more cars, and the citizens will benefit a lot from this tramway line. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Raul. So you're going to stay here at the stage, and we're going to now turn to our panelists. You heard about a great project.
Happy to go first. I was pleased to see that this project does have something to do with road safety, so I'm happy to provide some feedback. We actually received these proposals before today, so I took the liberty of making some notes, which I'll just quickly read. So first off, the UN Road Safety Fund, we are all about seed funding in low and middle income countries. So this particular project wouldn't necessarily qualify. But that being said, we're really pleased how Nice demonstrates how upgrading transport systems can be a catalyst for urban equity. Extending the tram services reduces, obviously, the road exposure for vulnerable road users. And this public transport expansion, if it's done correctly, it's one of the most cost-effective ways to improve road safety. This is the background to SDG 11.2. SDG 11.2 talks about improving road safety through greening communities. Is this clear institutional structure? I think projects that have a clear anchor institution that's leading and driving and bringing the other partners and bringing co-funding is essential. Where I think the project can improve is really around stronger articulation of road safety targets within the project design and how you will evaluate the project over time. I'll stop there for now, but thank you very much for this great presentation.
Great. Let's see. I think Engineer, we got lots of people jumping in. Okay, Engineer Banda, and then we'll go on. Okay.
شكرا. الحقيقة المشروع جبار وكبير، وإحنا حقيقة عشنا التجربة يمكن في مترو الرياض كانت حقيقة.
If you look at Riyadh City, of course, all the efforts have been concentrating on the implementation of this project as citizen and in the municipality of Riyadh as well. In the Riyadh City Council, we are enabled to communicate with all our partners. I would like, for example, to extend appreciation to what you have said as well. I have two remarks based on international projects as well, based on the implementation of projects, the projects that are established in cities and provide numerous services. I mean, the first remark is the land consumption. Sometimes we face a problem as regards, for example, we want to make sure that the company or the investor or the supervising body has been taken into consideration all the aspects of the project as well. But this is one of the problems that delays the implementation of such a project. Of course, the ownership of lands, and even the integrated efforts between the electricity sector, municipality sector, water services sector, and drainage, and in addition to the other entities that will affect the implementation of the project. Sometimes, if we have seen integration of efforts among all of these entities, so the project will be very easily implemented. But if there has been a delay, or if there has been an entity supervises such kind of project without taking into consideration the role that can be played by other partners, of course, the project will never be very successful. Thank you very much for this important project, and in the near future, we try to think about that. I mean, yeah. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Let's see. Okay, I think all of our panelists are going to jump in here. So, Neji, go ahead, and then we'll have Nasser jump in. Okay.
Merci beaucoup pour cette présentation et ce beau projet qui appelle quelques questionnements, mais aussi quelques commentaires et suggestions pour nos villes africaines. Mes premiers commentaires sont sur le prix qui me semble assez élevé, et on voulait avoir une explication pour ça, parce que 7 km pour 360 millions d'euros. Ça pose un problème pour nos investissements futurs, pour nous, surtout pour les pays africains. Deuxième.
Thanks very much for this future project. This experience is very great, and collaboration with the Africa region, and this project includes numerous African countries. It's a very important project, and it's going to be a very great experience as well. We want to pass this experience to others based on the fact of the importance of this important project. Of course, this is going to be an international project that will pass through different countries. So, and it will be a very successful transport project in so many countries as well, with the participation of the African capitals as well. It will serve the internal transport sector in Africa. In addition to the ability to provide quality services through this important project as well. And we will do our best to provide all assistance of passengers and the use, so a lot of young men who are under the age of 30 will benefit a lot from such kind of project as well, because sometimes they face a lot of security problems in so many African countries, especially young men, and there's no regulation as for the use of means of transport in such kind of countries that are suffering from the overpopulated areas, and it might lead to very dangerous conditions, so that to the extent that Chile would not find any level of efficiency or effectiveness, so I try and support the big number of inhabitants, as said by my colleague in the United Nations. He said that so as to allow and to provide high-value services to a number of countries, such as Tunisia, who did a great job in establishing the first phase of the tramway, which is 20 kilometers long, and at the level of costs, they will be just given a high value. I mean, and will increase the value of their participations. And of course, they will ask for an extra value, and they will give a reasoning and justify the extra value, so that the bank can give the support, and so as to finance this important project as well.
Thanks a lot, and thanks for inviting us as AFC. I think just listening to the project looks very valuable to a city like Nice with congestion problems. And so I'd say the crux of the problem is well defined. Where would make it more bankable to finance institutions that are across the room is to just have a bit more clarity around just the traffic that you want to drive. What is the actual need? How much time would it save travelers from different points, and even the choice of the route, right? Why that particular choice of route? You know, what is the actual total cost of the project? And how much is private participation in terms of equity, debt? I think it gives people a sense of how to play or come on board to support.
Great, thank you so much. So we've got some great feedback from the panel, both specifically on what could be included in the pitch on this project in the search for financing, but also how it can be a model of interest for peer exchange in many other cities. So a huge round of applause again for Florence Torra and Nice. Thank you so much.
I have no 1 minute to answer.
So the idea was that actually the answers would be on bilateral, but if it's a 2-second answer, go ahead.
2 seconds.
Okay.
2 seconds. D'abord, I would like to thank you for all your remarks. Can help us. And just the fréquence, c'est 23 minutes, 23 minutes pour aller d'un endroit à un autre. 18 stations et nous attendons 50 000 personnes par jour.
Of course, no. You are in the blue line in the southern part of France, as of course earthquakes, floods, inundations. So we have secured this region against crisis and disasters. So we have train that passes every 10 minutes. That's why you will wait only the tramway only 20 minutes. So that's not good. So the frequency, and there is a cost for frequency, which is going to be very costly. That's why because of these matters that take place as well. So.
Jump into our next city action. So I'd like to call to the stage from Djibouti, Madame Saïda Zein Ahmed, who is Deputy Director of the Technical Services, who's going to present a project on zero waste management and city embellishment. So welcome to the stage. Great. Please go ahead. Thank you so much.
Okay, so first, let me say hi, good morning, bonjour. Thanks for inviting us to this important event. This is the first time we participate in this kind of forum, so I hope you bear with me a little bit. So the city of Djibouti is a melting pot. It's a city that's strategically a hub in between the Arab, the European, and the African continent. It's enveloped different ethnicity, traditions, culture, language, and so forth. We're a port city, so you can see now that we're a small amount of population, 1 million in the country, and 700,000, 700 to 29699 population in the city itself. The project that brings us today here, it's a point that shared with everyone, which is the waste, its management, its embellishment after it. And it links different challenges and has different opportunities that we could see in the ongoing slides. So I won't read exactly the slide. I will just, give you a sum up of it, and hopefully you could understand me. So the project itself started with the actual mayor. It's a combination of different complaint analysis of the city ongoing actual view. The biggest challenge is the waste. It's the waste that comes from consumption, from lack of management, and difficulties with different aspects of a city known as a capital. That's the first stage of each collectivity is to have some laws and textual informations. And our city is one of the youngsters collectivity in the African corner, but it also thrives into a participative action of the different sectors, whether private, governmental, local, or even international. So the context, as I said, that brought us here today, it's the ongoing growth of the waste on streets, on field that was supposed to be for youngsters to play on roads and on everywhere. So the context, even though it's normal, it's a collective challenge, we need to also strive for objectives and improve how to clean, how to manage. Whenever we clean, how to manage after that, do some connections with the other cities that overcome this kind of challenge. Create awareness among the citizens. Those bring us to also create job opportunities and so forth. So I'll go to the financial part, which is one, we are young as a collectivity. That means we need to first gather textual, experienced, or experts in this kind of domain, do some diagnostic and action plans, and have equipment, because without take out from the street abandoned cars and find environmental solutions. If the component A was collecting and evaluating and recycling and making sure that some fields are clean. The component B, it's more about the embellishments. You can see in some of those photos that some projects that we already done, like the garden in the central commercial area, the playground, which is one of the most important component in a city, one of the most important infrastructure in a city. The roundabout that need to be designed, because they are actually nodes and, like point to recognize itself. A shade for people that wait for the transport buses. The competency, it's the management of itself. We need to train our staff to be more involved and bring more solutions on the table. We cannot just study and put the study on the side, but we need to implement those studies and show some results. Even though those projects are small, they have to be touchable, tangible, and touch more than one. The logistic of itself, a project in itself needs some logistic behind it. We evaluated those components in different stages, which will be a total amount of 15,000. Those 15 million, it's not only awaited for investors, but the collectivity also take 20% of it, which comes from private, governmental, donors, and so forth. Stakeholders. We will talk about, whenever we say stakeholders, we need to more talk about the participative actions, the willing of the population to make it better. And the city hall in itself, the governmental, like the Ministry of Environment, the Ministry of Decentralization, the agriculture, because those are the base for those kind of projects to be achieved. We also work with different NGOs, the UNICEF, the RRC, the Croissant Rouge, the IGAD, that we started last year with the project of rehabilitating a beach. The SOS, the association which, like the SOS Environment, the agency of the road, and so forth. As a conclusion, we have a population that are in between 20 to 25 that have potentials, that has, what do you call that? That has visions, that are creative. And those youngsters are the base of every society. Those youngsters should be the one that's being invested in. And they are the one who's gonna show us the future. The participative actions is always not only from the government, not only from the collectivity, but also from the population itself. So we also tend to have discussion with them, have seminars with them, and so that they give us an idea to improve our approach of those challenges. Nevertheless, the collectivity also need international partners. Those are also a key for the ongoing overcoming of these challenges. Thank you.
AFC funded a 60 megawatt wind farm in Djibouti that currently supplies about 50% of the electricity of the country. I mean, I've looked at the project. It looks more social than commercial. For commercial investors to be very much interested, we have to look at potentially how waste could be transformed into maybe biofuels, for example, to supply extra power. I think that would give commercial investors a view of cash flows coming in. But in terms of funding it, I think donors, grants would be good, would be great investors to target. I've seen countries add what they call social environmental tax, right, which is just a little bit, not too much, 1%, 0.5% on corporates, on businesses, and that congregates to a significant chunk that could sort of support whatever the donor agencies are also bringing aboard.
Great, thanks. Enrique?
Thank you. So very interesting presentation, very good. Good initiative. I just want to piggyback off Nasir to say that I think this would be good for the grant donor space. And in that regard, from the UN perspective, you may want to engage with UNEP as well, UN Environment Program, as well as UN Habitat, because both of them, I think, would have relevant experience here and probably already very active in Djibouti. More importantly, with the UN environment engagement, they may help you to unlock, climate finance, which maybe is not an issue that I saw too strongly here. So just to broaden the engagement with these UN partners, I think is what I saw UNICEF there, so that's great. I guess that was for the playgrounds, but I think you can go broader. Thank you.
Great, yes, Engineer Banda, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Actually,
As a matter of fact, the Saudi Development Fund has allocated funds in amount of $300 million US, and we are continuing to support such kind of projects as well in so many sectors and so many fields, so as to achieve a quality of life and to provide water supplies to most of the residential complexes and competitors. We'll continue to invest in such kind of project because this project is one of the most important projects for the government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and both the Minister of Finance and the Saudi Development are both ready to finance such kind of important projects.
As African Development Bank, I think you are aware that we are working right now with Djibouti, the government of Djibouti, for a project named Projet intégré comprenant les aspects climatiques et les infrastructures routières. So this project is benefited from the ADF, the African Development Fund, for the feasibility study of this infrastructure, and comprises also the question of the waste, where we have many issues on the roads, floods, and waste are also put on the side of the roads. So right now we are at the stage of evaluation of the project, and the team was there 2 weeks ago. We have around 15 million for the first phase of this project. The studies are very advanced, and probably this year, October, we are going to the board for this project. But I will invite Madam to check with us, the African Development Bank, on the zero waste project. We can benefit of for some studies as technical assistance from the Urban and Municipal Development Fund. So after this session, we will change contacts and see how can we help to come for the feasibility studies of this project. Thank you.
Great, thanks. And I know it's also an opportunity in terms of city-to-city decentralized development cooperation, maybe also an opportunity to share experiences for projects like this. So thanks again, Saida. Really, everyone, we should applaud. Great project. Stage.
Sabah al-Khair, good morning, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Irene Saada from Ramallah City, Palestine. I would like to begin by thanking the organizers and the agencies today to giving us this opportunity to present our project. This project, I need to put you in our local context to explain more about the problem we are facing in the waste management in Ramallah. Ramallah is located in the center of Palestine, and it's very close to Jerusalem. I'm sure you all know Jerusalem. If there's no checkpoint, we can reach there with less than 20 minutes. So Ramallah is a hub city because the Palestinian Authority is based in Ramallah, so all ministries, public institutions, private sector headquarters, NGOs, diplomats are based in Ramallah. So many citizens come from other cities also to work in Ramallah. So as a municipality, we have the responsibility to provide services and innovative solutions and to work out any challenges that we face to provide these services. So in this subject, the solid waste and the main challenges we face as in urban development, as you can see, the classification of the land to A, B, C, this also limits our development capacity and the scarcity of land that we can use. In addition to that, we don't also have access to the main resource of water, electricity. In addition to this, and lately, in the last 2 years, the restrictions on movements between cities also was a major issue. So now about solid waste, the main thing that challenges that are facing us as a municipality, we have to manage 350 tons per day from Ramallah and the surrounding areas. But because we don't have a local landfill in Ramallah, because of the restrictions and limitations we have, because of the geopolitical context that I told you about, we have to transfer these waste to another city in the north called Jenin, which is almost 2 hours away from Ramallah. But the case is that we can't move it on a daily basis because we don't know when the checkpoint will open or when we are allowed to move these and transfer them, which means also additional cost and burden on the city to provide this service. In addition to this, the environmental impact and the risks we have on the public health and the pollution because of the accumulation of the waste and the random dump site and the fires that can also result from accumulation of the waste. So after consultation and several studies with stakeholders and experts, we found out that the sorting plant can be the best solution for our problem on this stage. And the beneficiaries can be about 350,000 people that will cover almost Ramallah city and the around areas in the middle of Palestine. And when we are talking about sorting plant, it means it will be a separation for the waste into organic waste, recyclable and cyclable. So this means also that the impact on the economy, the recycle economy, that many beneficiaries also will benefit, like farmers from the treated organic waste, and recyclables also will open opportunities for new jobs and careers. Of course, this sorting plant also aligns with our national strategies for the National Development Plan. So we are working in alignment with the Ministry of Local Government, Ministry of Quality, Authority and Public Health, in addition to the private sector and the academia. And the researchers will also benefit the baseline for our all activities. So when we are talking about planning, that it's very important. We are always in Ramallah, we have additional factor that we should take in consideration in our planning, which is the instability, the political instability and the geopolitical context. So in establishing the sorting plan, we expect that the impact will be high on solving the issue of the transportation and minimizing the waste amount, will also minimize the waste that should be transferred to 70 to 75%. And in addition to reducing the amount of gas emissions that also can affect the environment and reduce the risks on the public health. And as I said before, a direct impact also on the economy when we have recyclables to be used by entrepreneurs, startups, or local businesses. This will also enhance the recycle economy. We are expecting this project to cost $10 million that the municipality can also contribute with 40 dunums of land. This includes all operational costs for construction and awareness building and operational costs. Nowadays, the cost per ton, for example, costs us $38 only for transportation and to the dumping site. While if we have this sorting plan established, this will have a direct impact, and we expect to be minimized to $31 per ton, but we're talking about the total cost of operations, not only transportation and dumping. So we hope that we can join the efforts so we can have this opportunity to solve this critical issue that is impacting our environment. And it aligns also with the SDGs that now we are finishing also our VLR. So it aligns with the climate and SDG 11, 8, and 13. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much for that very powerful presentation. Really appreciate that, and the fact that this could be a pilot for other places is really interesting. So, our panel, who wants to jump in? Anika.
So nothing on road safety, but just to say, first of all, thank you very much. Very, very interesting and really encouraging to see that this initiative is being put forward. In the road safety ecosystem, we have a program where it's about safe used vehicles. So essentially, we want to help countries to put in place regulations where the cars that come in, the used vehicles that come in are safer. But it will have some impact on costs for citizens. It will have some impact on behaviors of citizens. And so that program, a very critical element was actually around communications and communications partners, whether they're private sector or nonprofit, where they help us to, and journalists as well, help us to communicate the message to, let's say, the beneficiaries, so that they know that it's not about, taking more money from them. It's really about a cleaner way of living, a safer way of living, and all the other benefits, economic benefits as well. So I would encourage that this is something that you also take into account, whether it's pro bono or you factor it into your budget. But I think how you communicate this to citizens will be critical from design stage all the way down to actually whether it's implemented well. So again, best of luck with this initiative.
I must say, I really enjoyed the presentation. It was very, very well articulated in terms of the need, the how, the cost, the benefit, the potential revenue or cost savings, which could be a revenue generation factor. So I'm hoping that people here, investors here in the region will really critically look at it. I think the only piece I would add is just the capacity. What is the current capacity on the ground to implement such a project? And if, for example, you're speaking to investors in Saudi, would you need Saudi capacity to come there to implement? So I think just a thought around that piece.
And we thank you very much for the great idea that you really talked about as regards to participation in the private sector, because this will reduce the cost and will generate jobs for the private sector just to benefit from such important project that you presented, and to recycle such kind of waste as well, creating jobs and creating startups and SMEs as well, and will serve the environment as well, as even benefiting from the Saudi experiences and expertise as well, once possible and once available, in collaboration with the organizations to find applicable solutions in this regard, because of the expertise in this regard as well. And I think that Chile, you mentioned this. Thank you very much for this great presentation, and thank you very much for just coming up with the main idea of the project.
Okay, great. Okay, so you've got a lot of feedback there. Thank you so much, Yuren, and again, another round of applause. Great. So we're now going to pass on to the final city for this round. So I'd like to call up to the stage who's representing Chisinau, Bogdan Kazaku, who is a senior specialist with the Department of Foreign Relations of the municipality, and Victor Buzu, who is the project manager of General Development for Architecture. And we're going to hear about a project that's maybe a little bit different from the others that we just heard about. So welcome you both to the stage.
Your Excellencies, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, greetings. Chisinau is a city of motion, building bridges across borders through impactful international cooperation. In recent years, the municipality of Chisinau has actively engaged in European and global cooperation and partnerships, participating in projects that has driven sustainable urban development, digital transformation, and social inclusion. Through Horizon Europe, Interreg, and other platforms, we have advanced our green mobility initiatives, improved the public services, and strengthened our capacity for innovation. These projects not only bring direct benefits to our citizens, but also positions Chisinau as a future-oriented European capital, open to dialogue, investments, and shared solutions. We are proud to be part of global communities of cities working together for a smarter, greener, and more inclusive tomorrow. At this point, I would like to give the stage to my colleague Victor Buzu, who will continue the presentation and share insights about our current initiatives and achievements. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Bogdan. Thank you, everyone, for having us here. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here. Without further ado, we'd like to go into the next round, and that would be the restoration of the heritage building Red Mill. The initiative is not about restoring a historical place, not only about that. It's about breathing new life into an area rich in potential and creating a space for creativity, education, and businesses to thrive. The Red Mill project is embedded within a portfolio of international collaborations that Chisinau is taking part of. It involves the full restoration of a heritage building and its integration in the creative industries sector, which is a new initiative from the Chisinau municipality to further propulse the creative industries. The direct beneficiaries include creative professionals, small businesses, students from nearby schools, and local residents. The project follows a clear methodology, assessment of the current state, designing the restoration plan, and the implementation of the project. The project has begun in January 2024, and it will end in July 2026, at least the initial phase that we have already funded. And architectural integrity. Several partners that are involved are obviously the Chisinau municipality. From the academia, we have the State and Technical University of Moldova, and we have as a partner the Association of Creative Industries. Our collaboration ensures both institutional support and the expertise that is needed to go through the project. What are the expected results and impacts? We plan on creating a visible and meaningful change. We aim to raise awareness about the value of our industrial heritage, this being the only industrial heritage building in Chisinau that has survived until now. The stakeholders, all the stakeholders, will benefit from a restored building and a vibrant new place instead of a derelict ruin. Also, this is not only a social project, because at the first floor of this building, we will have revenue-bringing activities. There will be a cafe or a brewery. On the upper floors, we will have exhibition spaces and co-working spaces that will also generate revenue. We'll track the success through tangible indicators. the number of users for the co-working spaces, the student engagement within the robotics classes, and also the financial return from the ground floor activities. You would probably ask how much this will cost. We do not have a very exact number at the moment, but based on the estimations of the projects that we have financed prior to this one, we think that it's going to be around 3 million euros. And I want to say that we have already secured some funding. This is not just coming and asking for money. We secured the funding for the essential studies, and that would be for the photogrammetry, the geological studies, the architectural studies, the archaeological studies, and all this are mandatory in order to be able to work on a restoration project in Chișinău. The next financial milestone would be for the development of the detailed restoration project and the actual restoration works. Future revenue will be generated through the on-site cafe. One more thing that we strive to achieve is to include this project into the creative industries sector, because this is a force that will drive Chișinău further and further. And we think that this is part of the future. Call to action. Why is it now the time to invest? Because Moldova's pre-accession status will grant us possibility to access funds. We also anticipate support from the new European Bauhaus, which is a European funding instrument. And also, at some point, we hope that this will become self-sustainable. Let's work together to bring the vision to life for culture, for the community, and for the city. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bogdan and Victor. And I think, we have a very different type of project here, bringing together a number of different angles from cultural heritage and preservation. And the Bauhaus funding is also about climate related. So just to clarify that it's cultural heritage, but also in an environmentally friendly way, using it as an anchor for attracting creative industries and supporting them. Anyone want to jump in on this one? I know it's maybe not as the typical project that you've seen, but go right ahead.
Yeah, not a typical project. And thanks for bringing up that project. I just sometimes wear too much of a commercial hat, so apologies. Just trying to look at the commerce of it, because Moldova, I'm sure geographically you border Ukraine in there somewhere, right? And so trying to think about the tourism percentage of GDP, what's the traffic level? I'm not sure of it, but should be low if my mind serves me right. But it'd be good to understand who is the customer of this project. Who are you really targeting for this project? Yeah.
Please.
Thank you, Kizino, for this presentation. I think it's a very good and we have difficulties with this building is going to ruin. So this case can be shared with our colleagues from Tunis here. What I saw that you are in the stage of studying and architecture, photogrammetry, etc. It's a good experience to share to our colleagues from Tunis and other countries having the same problem. Thank you very much.
Great. Anyone else want to jump in? Yes, Engineer Benda?
شكرا. حقيقة الصندوق السعودي للتنمية مول عدة مشاريع في هالجانب.
Well, as mentioned by my colleague in Tunisia, of course, we are engaging in financing and funding historic sites to keep the value and the biggest challenge that we're facing in such type of projects is is the restoration process and implementation is to find experts. This is the lack of experts to restore, such kind of buildings, historic buildings or heritage buildings. Sometimes you don't find a very highly qualified expert, or you might actually face the high cost. So whatever the cost is, the expert has to be very qualified so as to be able to restore the building and to make sure of the better process of restoration in a proper way as well, so that will regain the importance, the historic importance of this building, and to focus on the importance of this important site. This is my remark in this regard. Thank you.
Comments? We're all set? Okay, excellent. And I noticed you also mentioned in your presentation about creative industries expertise, so I think a lot of other cities here today could be interesting to exchange on their efforts as well on attracting and cultivating the creative sectors, which this building you are hoping will help support. So excellent. So a huge round of applause again.
Thank you so much.
Great. Well, so that ends this first panel in the city track. So really right on time. So a huge thanks to all of the cities and panelists for the great and dynamic discussions. We're now going to just have a 15-minute break. So if any of the things you heard today you want to chat with colleagues about over the 15 minutes, please do so. And then we'll be back up on stage at 12:15 for the second round of 4 cities. So don't miss that. Thank you so much.